When you hear the words reproductive health, you probably think about high school biology, right? Organs, functions, all the technical stuff. But that's kind of like looking at one tiny puzzle piece and thinking you've seen the whole picture. Today, we're going to put that entire puzzle together and see what it really means to be reproductively healthy.
So let's just dive right in, shall we? What does being reproductively healthy actually mean? Is it just about having all the biological parts working the way they're supposed to? Or is there something more, something bigger and more human to it all?
Well, on the one hand, you've got the simple definition. The machinery is in good working order. But then the World Health Organization comes along and offers a definition that is so much more profound. It's about a state of total well-being. We're talking physical, emotional, behavioral, and social. All of a sudden, this isn't just about bodies anymore. It's about our lives, our feelings, our relationships, and our society.
To really wrap our heads around this big idea, we're going to break it down into 5 parts. First, we'll see how this became a national priority. Then, we'll open up the contraception toolkit. After that, we'll navigate some tough choices, talk about prevention and protection, and finally, look at what happens when conception needs a little help.
All right, first up, let's explore how reproductive health became a goal for an entire nation. See, this isn't just about personal choices. It's a massive societal issue with a really interesting history.
You know, this timeline is actually pretty amazing. India was a true pioneer, launching national family planning programs way back in 1951. But the really key thing to see here is the evolution. Over the years, the focus shifted from just managing population growth to a much more holistic approach called reproductive and child health care. It was a recognition that healthy families are the bedrock of a healthy nation.
So what was driving this huge national focus? Well, this number says it all. India's population just exploded, going from around 350 million at independence to over 1.2 billion by 2011. That's the kind of growth that puts an incredible strain on everything, making family planning a critical piece of the puzzle for ensuring a good quality of life for everyone.
Okay, so with that big picture context, let's get practical and move on to our second section, the contraception toolkit. And toolkit is really the perfect word for it. It's not about one single option, but a whole range of tools, each designed for a different need and situation.
First up in our toolkit are the natural methods. The principle here is really straightforward. It's all about working with the body's natural rhythms to make sure sperm and egg just don't meet. No devices, no hormones, just timing and awareness.
So this includes things like periodic abstinence, basically avoiding intercourse during the fertile window, and something called lactational amenorrhea. That's just a fancy way of saying that exclusive breastfeeding right after childbirth can naturally and temporarily stop ovulation. The big upside? No side effects. The major downside? They're just not as reliable as other methods.
Next up, we've got barrier methods, and honestly, the name pretty much says it all. The whole point is to put up a physical wall between the sperm and the egg so they can't physically meet. Simple as that.
This category includes things like condoms, diaphragms, and cervical caps. But condoms, they have this unique and absolutely vital superpower. They're the only method that also protects you from sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. That's a huge deal.
Then there are IUDs, which stands for intrauterine devices. These are tiny, T-shaped devices that a doctor places in the uterus. They're pretty clever. They work in a few different ways, like making it harder for sperm to survive or move, and making the uterus a less welcoming place for a fertilized egg to implant.
And finally, we have surgical methods. For men, it's a vasectomy, where the tube that carries sperm is blocked. For women, it's a tubectomy, where the fallopian tubes are blocked. Now, these are incredibly effective, but, and this is a big but, they are designed to be permanent solutions.
This brings us to a really personal and often very difficult part of reproductive health, making tough choices. Specifically, we need to take a clear look at medical termination of pregnancy, or MTP.
So in India, MTP was legalized way back in 1971, but with very strict guidelines to protect the patient. As you can see here, the rules depend on how far along the pregnancy is. For up to 12 weeks, you need the opinion of one registered doctor. Between 12 and 24 weeks, you need 2 doctors to agree. The whole system is designed to make sure the procedure is safe and done for valid medical reasons.
And that point about misuse, it's absolutely crucial. This quote gets right to the heart of a very serious problem. There's a medical test called amniocentesis that can reveal the sex of a fetus. It's legally banned from being used for that purpose. And why is that?
It's to fight against the illegal and heartbreaking practice of female feticide.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about our fourth topic, prevention and protection. Think of this as building a shield against sexually transmitted infections, or STIs.
STIs are a massive public health issue, and the list is long, from chlamydia to HIV. What makes them so tricky is that many of them don't show any symptoms at first, which means they can spread without anyone even knowing. That's why, even though many are treatable, prevention is, without a doubt, the best medicine.
And the good news is, prevention really comes down to 3 simple but super powerful principles. 1, be mindful of your partners. 2, always try to use condoms. And 3, if you have any doubt whatsoever, don't wait, go see a qualified doctor. It's straightforward advice that can have a massive, life-saving impact.
For our final section, we're going to turn our attention to a different kind of challenge, infertility, and the incredible technologies that can step in when getting pregnant isn't so easy.
This is where assisted reproductive technologies, or ART, can make a huge difference. Now, I know the acronyms look kind of intimidating, but let's break them down. IVF is when fertilization happens in a lab. With ZIFT and GIFT, a tiny embryo or an egg is placed right into the fallopian tube. And ICSI is this amazing microprocedure where a single sperm is injected directly into an egg. Each one is a different tool for a different challenge.
But with all this incredible science, our source material reminds us of a really powerful, profoundly human option. With so many children out there needing a safe, loving home, legal adoption isn't just another choice on a list. It's one of the best and most meaningful ways to build a family.
So after all of that, what's the one thing you should walk away with? It's this: informed choice is power. Real reproductive health isn't about finding one right answer for everyone. It's about ensuring you have access to good information, good health care, and the freedom to make the decisions that are right for your life and your body. And that leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. We've seen the incredible toolkit that science and policy have created, but now that we have all these tools, how do we as a society make sure that every single person has the access and the education they need to actually use them?